Hi everyone, welcome back to another Drift Cars JP video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do a service on a 2016 Subaru XV Crosstrek. Now this will be a bit of a longer video because I'll be showing you everything on what to check, where to look, rotate the tyres, check the brakes, check the suspension, check everything like that. So it's not going to just be your basic oil change and that'll be it. So now what we need for the oil change part is I bought the genuine service care pack. Now what comes in the pack, you get a bag, which obviously that's for other stuff, a gasket, which is your sump plug gasket, Subaru genuine oil filter, 5.5 litres of the synthetic motor oil, upper engine cleaner, fuel additive, and a 500ml screw and wash. Now what you're going to need is a drain pan, a funnel, a 90mm socket for your wheel nuts, a 7mm spanner for the sump plug, a screwdriver or a plastic trim tool remover, 12mm socket, and an oil filter ratchet. Now I'll show you another way if you don't have one of them to get the oil filter off. Now in the kit here, what we get is Castrol 020 oil, so that's 5.5 litres. These XVs, which this is a 2 litre take, 4.8 litres of oil. So in here we get our genuine oil filter, which I'll show you the part number. I always believe if you can get genuine stuff, get it. It's just so much better. So that's the part number there that you'll need for the oil filter. So these are just a normal screw-on style filter. They're not a cartridge filter or anything like that. They're just a normal screw-on filter. And in here we get your upper engine cleaner, some washer bottle liquid just for your screen. There's your sump plug gasket, little O-ring, and also some fuel additive. So that's basically what you get. You also, like I said, you get a Subaru bag. Now this kit's about $220, I think it is, through Subaru. That's Australian dollars, which obviously is going to be probably cheaper elsewhere, but you can buy all the parts. You don't have to use genuine stuff, but I prefer to use it anyway. So now we'll have a look under the bonnet. Now this is my sister's car, so obviously she doesn't really keep the engine bay very clean on it. So we'll show you how to check your air filter, check all your levels. What I'll do is I'll just grab a torch and we can have a quick check of the levels now. Now as you start the service, it's a good time just to have a quick check of the levels, just in case you might have an issue. Now the coolant level is right down on the bottom of this thing, so either it's just never been checked, which you can't see down there, it's right at the very bottom, or we might actually have an issue. Now you want to check your drive belt. Now this is your drive belt here. Now you want to make sure there's no cracks in it. If you haven't got any cracks in it, it's fine, you don't need to replace it. But if you find lots of little cracks all around the actual belt, that'll need to be replaced. So that's either a job you can try and do yourself, or you take it to your local Subaru dealer to do it. Now I'm going to be draining the oil hot because it's only just been driven here. Now I'm a bit of a believer you can do it two ways. You can do it hot, like I'm doing now, with an oil flush, or just with a hot engine. But if you've got plenty of time and the car's sat overnight and you haven't driven the car at all, and you can jack it up and drain the oil, it's not a problem if you drain it cold, because all that hot oil has already gone to the bottom of the engine the night before. So it's not a great issue, but the only other thing is you've got to let it drain for a longer period of time. Now with a hot oil, you could probably let it drain for 10 minutes and put the sump plug back in and fill it back up. When it's cold, you probably need to let it drain for at least good 2, 3, 4 hours if you've got the time, which sometimes you can. You can just drop the oil and go away and go and do other jobs. So obviously while we're under here, before I get started, I always like to loosen off the oil cap. So I just take it off and just let it sit there. Now your oil filter on these, you might be able to do these by hand, which I can undo them by hand and let them drain. So if you just undo that and just let it sit there like that, it will just start to drain on its own. I always just pull up the dipstick, just leave it up so I remember to check it later on. Now you want to check your brake fluid. So you come around here. Now this one's pretty close to the max, so generally if it's up high you don't need pads. If it's dropped down a fair bit, you generally don't have a leak. What it'd be more likely that your front or rear pads are worn out. Now while we're here, we just have a general quick look around the car, make sure there's no oil leaks down here on the cylinder heads. The cam covers on these are quite common sort of for leaking in high mileage Subarus, and it's been an issue with Subarus since very early flat fours. It's just because what happens is the exhaust sits right underneath this valve cover, and it just cooks the gasket over time, and the gasket goes hard and starts to leak. But we'll have another look while we're underneath the car. And everything else looks fine. Have a check over the back here. Now this is a CVT Auto model, this one. Seems to be fine. I think it's done around, now this particular model, it's done 71,000 kilometers. So we're only going to be doing a minor service on it, which is just going to be oil and filter and just a general check over. So we'll get that jacked up, and we'll get the covers off underneath, and we'll show you how to pull all them off. Now if you don't have a trolley jack like I do, you can use your scissor jack from in the boot. My advice is, if you're going to use that, make sure you take a wheel off and put the wheel up underneath the car, especially if you're going to hop up underneath it. So we'll get this jacked up and we'll go from there. Okay, we've got the car jacked up now. So underneath here, what we're going to do, we're going to pull this cover off so we can have a good look underneath and make sure everything's all good underneath there. But if you only want to drain the oil, you can access it just from here. So you can see your sump plug just up in there. So you don't necessarily need to remove this plastic cover, but we're going to pull it off anyway so we can have a good look underneath the engine and see what's going on. So these are held on by, there's a 12mm there, another 12mm there, two 12mm at the back, and a bunch of these plastic clips up around the side here. So we're going to get them off. We'll get the bolts off first. So now we've got the cover off. This is a good time to check up underneath these, as I said, where your cam covers are. Make sure there's no leaks through there. Make sure there's no splits in your power steering rack boots. Make sure that there's no fluid coming out of there either. And we'll just have a general look underneath the radiator. Make sure there's no coolant marks or anything like that where there's been any signs of a leak. And everything looks pretty good under here. Make sure your water pump's not leaking, your thermostat housing's not leaking as well. And obviously check all your hoses and stuff like that. Make sure they're nice and soft. They're not all gone hard or anything like that. So everything looks pretty good under here. Like I said, it's only done 70,000 Ks. But if you're doing a service on one that's done a fair few more kilometres than this, yeah, you might find something that's leaking or perished underneath there. So we'll crack off. This is the 17mm that you need for your oil drain. Now, this is reasonably hot. It's not boiling hot. That's why I sort of make the recommendation that if you're a novice and haven't done it before, do it while it's cold, because I don't want anyone burning themselves or anything like that, and it's better for you to change your oil than not change it at all. So we'll give that a good 20 minutes to drain, if not more. So you can see the oil there. Don't be too concerned of what colour it is. Everyone always says, oh, how dark's the oil? But if the oil's doing its job, it should be black. You don't want to, if you're draining it and it's like quite amber in colour, you're draining your oil far too often and you haven't done enough kilometres to justify changing it. So yeah, don't be too concerned of what colour the oil is. It's going to be dark, whatever comes out, just drain it out and put some new stuff in. So we're going to get these wheels off and we're going to do a rotate on the wheels. We're just going to swap them from front to rear, which helps prolong the tyre life. And we'll check our brakes and check our tie rod ends, check our bushes and everything like that as well. And while your oil is draining, it's a good time to remove your oil filter. So just pull it up. And most of it's probably already drained. Due to these being mounted sort of upside down, it drains out the oil pretty quickly, which is good. So we can just leave that sit on there like that for now, just so nothing drops in there while we're doing other jobs. And then we'll get these wheels off. Now, if you don't have a rudder gun or access to anything like that, before you jack the car up, you need to crack the wheel nuts and loosen them off first. So, or if you've got someone with you, at least get them to hop in the car, put their foot on the brake, and you actually undo the wheel nuts that way. So I've got the rattle gun, so we'll just zip them off that way, and I'll take the front and rears off right now. So okay, we've got our wheels off here. Now this is the front wheel here. And the reason what we're going to rotate the tyres for is you can see the tyres start to camber off after a little while on the front. Subarus kind of do it quite evenly over the front and rear. Now if you look at this, is the rear tyre that I've taken off. It's probably a little bit flatter across the top, not much. But checking out on both wheels, the tyres on the front were a Champro, what are they, a GT radial tyre, which is sort of a lesser known brand. And the fronts, just roll that before it rolls away, the fronts are a Yokohama Geolander tyre. So these are a better quality tyre. These are I'd rather put on the front anyway, just because you always want to put your best quality tyre on the front of the car. Now that we've got the wheel off, it's time to check our brakes. Now when you're checking your discs, you want to make sure there's no huge lip on the edge of the discs, either in here or here. So this is nice and even all the way across. It's got a nice colouring. It's not like got burnt spots or hot spots or anything like that on the disc. So while we're under here, we want to check our suspension, make sure there's no leaks. So you want to make sure this is all dry. Up in there is all nice and dry. So you don't want to have any leaks through here. Check all this is your ABS line. Make sure that they're all fine. There's no like cuts in it or it's broken or anything like that, which you'd get a warning on the dash if it was broken. You want to check your brake lines. Make sure there's no splits or cracks in the actual rubber hose. So you want to check it all the way up through to here. Make sure that's all nice and not hard as a rock either. And now we'll check our brake pads. Now we should be able to see inside these. I'll just turn the wheel. Okay, so if we look inside there, it's a little bit hard to see on this. Get the torch in the right spot. You can see on here we've got quite a fair bit of pad material inside there. So I'd say that these have got around about 60% left on the pads. It's a bit hard to see on the camera, but I can just see in the front pad here, it's probably got around about 50%. What I'll do is I'll whip the caliper off so you can have a better look. Okay, so we've got the caliper off so we can have a better look at the brakes. So we can see here we've got around about probably, I reckon, say 50% left on the pads on the inside and the outer pad. Now if you pull it off and you find one pad's really worn out and the other one's not, you're generally going to find that this little slides in here are seized. So you'll probably find, there's a better example. So see how that one there moves? That's how they should feel. If they're stuck stiff like this, what will happen is the pistons here will push on the outer pad, the inner pad, and it will wear all the inner pad but won't wear the outer pad. So yeah, so if you pull it off, this one's really worn down and that one's fine. You've obviously got an issue with your caliper slides. But these are fine. These will probably be due in around about 15,000 kilometers before you'd have to replace them. And that's about it. We'll have a look under here. We want to just check our CV boots. Make sure our CV boots here don't have any splits in them. Inside as well. Then most likely they always split on the outside boot here, because this is the boot here, which is obviously it's on your steering knuckle, so it's going back and forth and it's getting pushed out and pulled in. So this is the one that generally always splits on your car, and the inner one normally doesn't split. So we check all that, make sure all here's all fine, make sure your inside bush here is okay. Quite often these rear bushes wear out if you've done a lot of kilometers, which you can replace either the whole arm or you just replace that bush with like a nolithane bush. And that's about it. So we check inside there. Everything looks pretty sweet in this car. It hasn't done a lot of Ks, so I'm not expecting to find anything wrong with it. So we'll get this caliper on and we'll swap the tyres around and we'll put it back together. Now when you do your wheel nuts up, get them all up firm, and then make sure you're always going a crisscross pattern. So go from that one to 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 that one, and then back again. Just double check on that. Now while we've got the front wheel back on, now's a good time just to feel if you've got any worn ball joints or anything like that in the suspension. So what you want to do is just grab the wheel and go back and forth very slowly. So push there, pull that one. So just do a little bit back and forth. So if you feel any type of little knocks like that back and forth, generally what it is, it's your steering rack ends, which is not a real common sort of issue on these. So also you want to grab the wheel and pull on the bottom and push on the top and back and forth. So push back, make sure you can't feel any sort of up and down movement with the wheel, indicating that the ball joint or anything like that's worn. Now, like I said, we're not going to really find any real big issues with this car because it hasn't done enough kilometres. So what we'll do, we'll go down the back and we'll check the rear brakes. Now, let's check the rears. The same deal with the front. You want to make sure there's no huge lip on the disc in this area here. Now we'll check the pads in here. These look to have, so the camera can see it, probably around about 70% on the rears. So you can look inside there. See if we can get the torch to the camera to pick it up. You can sort of see there's about 70% pad on the rear. Same deal with the front. You want to check all your shocks, make sure there's no leaks, there's nothing all wet around this area or wet here. Check your brake lines, make sure there's no splits or anything like that, ABS line, etc. Also we'll check our CV boots. The rears don't normally split, they normally last pretty much the lifetime of the car if you've got sort of an issue with them. So you can check through the back here, make sure the inside one's all okay, which is fine. Now check under your diff, make sure the diff's not leaking or anything like that. It's a good time to check your exhaust, make sure there's no holes in the exhaust. Subarus make pretty good exhaust systems as well, so you're not going to sort of find too many issues with them unless you've done a lot of off-road use with this particular model. That's about it for the rears. We'll have a quick look up underneath the transmission. Okay, so you want to just check your transmission pin, make sure there's no leaks or anything around the auto. So we'll just check up around the back, make sure there's no leaks up the back there where the tail shaft mounts into the back of the gearbox. And then, like I said, just have a general look over. There's no sort of oil leaks or anything like that. You don't have a lot to worry about. So, like I said, this thing's pretty good. So we'll put the back wheel on. I won't show you. All I'm going to do is just rotate front to back on the other side. And when you've got the other wheels off, it's always good to check pads on both sides. So sometimes it can wear slightly different on one side or the other. So you always want to make sure you check both sides of the pads, because you don't want to check one side and then realise the other side's worn out. Now that's been draining for probably about 40 minutes now, because I've been off inside and done some other things. So it's time to just clean up your sump plug, give it a good wipe down, get all the oil off it. Now we've got to remove our old washer, which sometimes is hard, but this one's come off pretty easy. So sometimes you just got to screw it off the actual threads to get the thing off. We'll use a screwdriver to help wedge it off. Now it's always good practice to replace your sump plug washer, because they can be quite easily the cause of a leak, which is not worth it for a 30-cent washer. So we'll take that one off, throw it in the oil. Now we've got our new washer here. There's nothing special about it. Put it on, and that's it. And put your sump plug in. Clean up around there. Now, to doing up your sump plug, you don't need to do them overly crazy tight or anything like that. And just go until it's firm like that. And then you'll feel, because this type of washer, it's a crush washer, so it'll actually flatten out as you do it up. So you need to pull just until you sort of feel the thing flatten down, and then go about another 1/8 of a turn. So just a little bit till it's just nipped up like that. You don't have to go crazy tight. Like I said, that's more than enough where it's sitting there. So you don't need to go too crazy on it. So we'll get that done. We'll get this bottom cover all back on, because we've finished up underneath here. Make sure you always wipe anywhere where oil's sort of dripped. Always wipe it, because you'll come back later and think you've got an oil leak. Now when you do your oil filter up, just do it up till it's nice and tight, and you can't sort of do it up anymore. You don't need to put any tools on it or anything like that. That's plenty enough. So now we'll just get our funnel. Make sure you always wipe your funnel before you use them. You never know what's dropped into them while it's been sitting on the shelf. Now you need one that's got a reasonably thin nozzle on it for a Subaru. The big ones kind of overflow a lot. You sit that in there. Now these take 4.8 litres on these. So this is a 5.5 litre, so you can pretty much go pretty hard till around about there. So we'll fill that up. Okay, so we've put around about 4.5 litres in that. So what we'll do, we'll just sit that up there, just spin your cap back on, and we'll go around and we'll just quickly start it. Because what you want to do, you need to start it so we get the oil filter to fill up with oil, and then it gives us a good judge on how much more oil to put in the car. So I'm not sure if these have an oil light on them or not. Do we have an oil light? Most, yeah, they do. So they have one right in the middle there. See, this is not my car, it's my sister's car. So start it up, let it sit there until the oil light turns off, which is turned off pretty much straight away. Let it run for about probably 10 seconds or so. That's probably more than enough. Turn it off. We'll jump out and we'll pull the dipstick out here. Now on your dipstick, you've got two little holes on your dipstick. So that's your low level, that's your high level. So you wanted to get it around about there, like either a little bit above or right on the dot. And that's spot on. So wipe that, put it in, put it back out again. See, that hasn't even registered on the dipstick. So we need to add a little bit more to it. So we'll chuck some more in. So there we go. So bang on right on the top dot there. So that's that done. So we'll put our oil cap back on. Get rid of that. Same with the oil cap. They don't need to be crazy tight on these either. Okay, so now it's time. What we're going to do, we're going to obviously top up our radiator. Put our washer bottle solution in this, which says we're going to add the whole lot in. Just chuck that in there. That's all you got to do with that. Get some water, fill that up, fill it everywhere. Okay, now we've got to top up our coolant. You can just use just normal water for this. You don't need to put coolant in it or anything. There'll be enough coolant in the radiator to mix with it. So make sure we fill it up to our top mark. So it's a bit hard to see here in the dark, but you've got a high mark here, and then you've got the low mark down the bottom. So you just fill it up to the high mark. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit above or a little bit below, as long as you've topped it up. And that's them done, and that's basically our service finished. So what we'll do is I'll show you how we'll just double check the oil, the air filter, and we'll give it a quick clean out. We'll do our upper engine clean as well. Plus we've also got our fuel additive. Now this just goes straight into your fuel tank. You don't need to do anything with it. Just shake it up, throw it in your fuel tank, and that's that job done. Now to get your air filter out, you've just got to undo these two clips. So just get a flat blade screwdriver, undo these two clips here. I'll try and do it one-handed. Get those two clips popped out. Just pull them out, put your clips somewhere where you're not going to lose them. The other clip out, and just pull this whole piece out. Just pop straight out like that. And you've got two clips here, two clips like that. Just pull it forward, and there's your air filter inside there. So now this air filter is pretty filthy. We'll give it a blowout. It probably really needs to be replaced on this one, but we haven't got one with us at the moment. So I'll take that outside and I'll blow that out with the air blower. So we're giving that a quick blow off. I'll order a new one of these for this. It's a bit too filthy for my liking, so we'll chuck that back in. We'll get that. Now the last job we're going to do on the car is the upper engine clean. So you need to give the can a good shake, and fit the long nozzle to the can. So just balance out there. So you need to fit that nozzle in there. Now on these you've got to find a access point to the inlet manifold. Now probably on this the easiest point is probably here. So we can access there, so we can spray. What you want to do is spray about half the can, so you need to get this right in. How's that going in? Then you get into there and then spray about half the can. So you can hear me spraying it. Okay, so that's about half the can there. So now you want to let this sit for 5 minutes. Now we've let that sit for 5 to 10 minutes. So what we'll do, we'll go start the car. Now don't be concerned if it doesn't start straight away, because the cleaner sometimes makes it a little bit hard to start, which is nothing to be too concerned about. So see, it'll crank for a while, then it will get going, which is that's what you want to do. It means that you've got it into the right spot if it's going to take a while to start. Now what we want to do is just check out the back. It should pump out a little bit of smoke, but you can see it's barely can see it there. It's just pumping a little bit of smoke out of the back at the moment. Now what we want to do is we've got to spray the rest of the can into the motor. So we'll take that vacuum spot off again, so the idle will go down a little bit. Give it another shake. And now if the car stalls, that's fine. So we just want to spray it until it obviously stops. And use the rest of the can. Right, now you see that idle is dropping right down. Okay, now that's stopped, which is what you want. If it doesn't stop, it doesn't matter. So we'll spray the rest of it in. And now what we want to do, so that's got the rest of it in there, and it's empty. Put the cover back on and we'll let that sit for another 10 minutes. Now that's set for another 10 minutes. So we'll start this up. It will be hard to start again, but don't be too concerned about that. So we'll crack that on. Oh, that's good, started straight up. Now let's have a look at the back here. You should get a little bit of smoke out the back, depending on how old the car is too, to how much smoke you'll actually get out of the back. This is pretty good actually, so we'll give it a bit of a rev up, just see if it clears out a bit more. Okay, you can see it'll start to clean a bit of that carbon out. You'll see it come out through the exhaust, so don't be concerned if it smokes like that for a good sort of 5 minutes until it burns everything off. That's just pretty much normal. And you take it for a drive and it'll probably blow a bit more each time you give it a bit of a boot up the street. But that's it for doing your upper engine clean. Now that's set for another 10 minutes. So we'll start this up. It will be hard to start again, but don't be too concerned about that. So we'll crack that on. Oh, that's good, started straight up. Now let's have a look at the back here. You should get a little bit of smoke out the back, depending on how old the car is too, to how much smoke you'll actually get out of the back. This is pretty good actually, so we'll give it a bit of a rev up, just see if it clears out a bit more. Okay, you can see it'll start to clean a bit of that carbon out. You'll see it come out through the exhaust, so don't be concerned if it smokes like that for a good sort of 5 minutes until it burns everything off. That's just pretty much normal. And you take it for a drive and it'll probably blow a bit more each time you give it a bit of a boot up the street. But that's it for doing your upper engine clean. Now that's our service pretty much done. Always drain the oil, put the oil back in your old container, take it to like a waste recycling centre, recycle oil, don't throw it in the bin. We all want to keep our cars on the road, so we need to recycle the oil. And that's it, so that's pretty much done. So apart from doing tire pressures and stuff like that, which you can just do that at a servo, that's basically a low normal service that you do on a Subaru XV. So the only thing left is, once you've done all this work, take it for a drive, make sure everything dries fine, come back, check underneath for leaks once you get back, just to make sure that there's no oil underneath the car, because you might have done something wrong. Make sure there's no leaks around the oil filter and anything like that as well. And that's it. So I just want to say thanks heaps for watching. Thanks for the support on the channel. Subscribe to the video, which helps me to do more videos. The more subscribers I get, the better, and I sort of encourages me to do a lot more videos like this, which I've got a few more coming up in the future, which I'll do one hopefully next week on my Honda Civic, which you can see that I've got a Civic race car in my other videos. And yeah, that's basically it for today's video. So yeah, thanks heaps. Give me a like if it helps you. I hope it saves you some money. That's the main aim of my videos, is to help people. If you've never done a service before, this is a good video just to show you everything quite slowly. It's a long video. I know it takes a bit of time to do it properly. It's not just one where you just drop oil and then move on. So yeah, so if this helps you out, like I said, hit a like on the video and subscribe to my channel, because even if you don't sort of into some of the other videos I do, it encourages me to help other people to make more videos like this. So thanks heaps. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.